I don't make videos. I don't ever make videos. But I'm going to do it for this. You asked for descendants of Cuban refugees, Cuban immigrants, to respond about Bernie Sanders. And so I'm going to respond. I grew up listening to my father and my mother talk about Cuba before communism. That's when they met. My mother was a missionary, a lay missionary from Ohio, and she went to Cuba not speaking the language, but because she had a passion to serve God in Cuba. So she went, and that's where she met my father, who was an evangelist. He had been converted by missionaries from America, and he traveled the island preaching the gospel. She met him, they fell in love. They served the Lord on the island. When it was time for my father to serve his country by joining the resistance, of course he did, and he served as a chaplain for Fidel's army. He and Fidel came from the same province. They knew each other as young men. Fidel was a little bit older than he was, but he was always a leader. And my father, was one of the young Cubans that knew him personally, knew him intimately, and of course he trusted him and joined him in the fight because they all thought they were saving their country. When communism came in, my father and my mother immediately knew they had to leave. They had to leave the island. They had to leave their churches. They had to leave the work they were doing there. And they did because they would never want to raise their children under communism. So they came to America, and my entire life, I heard the stories. I heard the stories from my father. I heard the stories from my mother. I heard about beautiful Cuba and how they longed, always longed to go back, but never could. And I heard the stories about Fidel and about communism, and about what happened in the country after he took power, after communism came in. There's no way to describe the brokenness, the heartache that a person feels when they lose their country. My father embraced America. He loved America. He was more patriotic than my Ohio-born mother. But they both always longed to go back to Cuba. They both always hoped they would be able to return. They're gone now. I can't imagine how they would react to finding out that our country, the country that my father adopted, the country that they both trusted, that they returned to as refugees, he a political refugee, my mother, of course, a citizen. I can't imagine how they would be responding right now to think that we are on the brink of nominating this man to be the Democrat candidate for president of the United States. I can tell you, however, my father would have loved Donald Trump. He would have loved a man who loved America as much as Trump does. He would have respected that, and it would have been the hope that he has for us, for our country, the same that I do. My hope is that Trump will win again, that this insanity of communism will end, this admiration would end. I hope to God it does soon. I hope to God Americans wake up and realize that they will lose their country. The same way my father lost his country, they will lose America. You think it will improve America. It won't improve America. It will destroy it. It will utterly destroy America. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. Read your history. Read your history. I used to hear the stories. I used to hear how, I mean, the video's too long as it is. I'm sorry, I don't do this, like I said. God help us. God help us. God help us. God help us if we make this mistake. Thank you. Bye-bye.